So to the last match of the week, the final between David Nalbandian of Argentina and Safin of Russia. Well, Jason, before we start, who's your money on?
I've got to go with Safin, really. Played so well yesterday. He's got too many weapons, I think, for Nalbandian, so I'll take him in 4.
Well, I'll take him as well.
15.
Well, you'll find that Nalbandian is very quick about the court, so he's going to get to an awful lot of those big booming ground strokes.
That's going to be the fascinating matchup for me, the Safin serve against the Nalbandian return. So very difficult to read with the low toss and the relatively fluent, quick motion.
And the accuracy, ace number 1. Relatively easy start for Safin there. And Jason, of course, this is the best of 5 sets, this final, traditionally. And it makes a big difference to one's outlook.
Well, it certainly does, because you have a little bit more time just to play yourself into the match, and it's very important when you're taking on somebody like Safin. If you do happen to fall an early service break behind, you know that it's not be-all and end-all. You've got a little bit of extra time to make up for your poor start. So the players, I think, although they'll be nervous because it's a major final, won't be quite as tight as they would have been if it was just a best-of-3 affair.
Lost this team. Last 30.
It's important for Nalbandian to dig in here. Love 30 down was a nasty start to his service game, so he'll be pleased with the Safin error. Right in the corner.
And that's Safin's best shot without a doubt in my book from the back of the court. The ability to be able to change direction on the ball, take it early inside the baseline. Very difficult to defend against.
Already 2 break points. Well, now Ben is a long way back behind the baseline. Little nod of approval from Lundgren there. So Safin, and of course it won't be lost on the entire tennis world that Lundgren was the man who took Roger Federer to the world #1 spot. And I think Safin hopes that he might learn a thing or two and do the same. He has been #1, of course. Briefly in 2000 he was #1.
Well, it is interesting because he was asked yesterday after his win over Agassi what effect Lundgren had had on his game since they hooked up in April, and he said primarily 2 things. Firstly, it's made him more relaxed on court, more focused, and secondly, he talks a lot more in terms of tactics about how to play each opponent. And I think we've seen this week, John, that he's been much more relaxed on court, hasn't got as uptight, has on occasion, but nowhere near as well as he might have done in the past, especially when things haven't gone his way, like on the net court there.
Thank you, guys. 30.
Yeah, that's good. Got to be careful with that serve that's sliced wide to a man as fast as Nalbandian.
And he does have excellent hands. It was a short swing on the return, just managing to clip the line.
So a break back on the cards. And he's got it. Well, that is exactly what Nalbandian had hoped to do after losing his own serve. Striking back at once. So it's 2-1.
Well, that was a perfect game as far as Nalbandian is concerned. Hit the one good shot at 30 all, but I think it was very evident in the last point of the rally that Safin really just got a little nervous and his movement suffered as a result. Didn't get in the right position with the feet as he was moving up to that short ball and then overhit it quite severely. It's always a sign of nerves when you don't quite have control over the footwork, can't quite get yourself into a good enough position to be able to execute your shot early on in a match, and also when you just don't quite have control of the ball. Agassi was saying yesterday in his semi-final that he felt a little tight, a little nervous, and especially in the tie-break in the second set, just overhit on a couple of shots, which of course it's very easy to do in the conditions here because we're about 650 metres above sea level, and therefore the ball does travel through the air a little quicker, particularly if you don't put in as much spin on the ball as you wanted to, which was the case there in the last shot as far as Safin was concerned. So both players have done well early on to get back on level terms.
Well, at the start of the programme we mentioned their last meeting in Paris, and do you remember the awful blisters that Safin suffered from that day? And I think really it was largely the fact that he couldn't hold the racket properly that led to that unexpected defeat. I think it was unexpected, though of course Nalbandian has a great pedigree on clay, and he hadn't ever lost to him up to that moment. I mean, if you can't hold the racket, then it makes life almost impossible. 1-2. Lady can't find her seat. Pity that, because the angle, rather like yesterday when he was playing Ljubicic and pulling him wide, that had made the opportunity for a winner, but a little bit over keen to hit the winner.
That's what Nalbandian really struggles with when he's trying to force Safin in terms of movement around the court. If he doesn't keep his unforced error count low, he's going to gift the Russian an awful lot of free points. And that's really where Safin can hurt Nalbandian. Anything drops short will be punished, as it was yesterday against Agassi, taking the ball early, generating some nice angle by contacting the ball out in front of the body.
Well, the relief of breaking back quickly ended. And Nalbandian really on the back foot.
That would be my one question mark over Nalbandian. He's won 2 titles, of course, in 2002, but he's been a runner-up on 5 occasions, including, of course, earlier in the year in Rome. So he doesn't play particularly well in the big matches.
There is Carla and Guillermo Correa in the back row there. He's here to having treatment on his injury. He was here last year having treatment too. And is saying, Jason, that he might play in Paris. Well, now, I think that might be rather foolish of him if he really isn't over that injury, and they tell me it's still needing treatment. So he was out on this court actually hitting tennis balls earlier.
14.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was talking to the ATP about whether they thought he was going to be in Paris, and they said it was probably a 50-50 chance that he was going to play there, but if at all possible, he desperately wanted to try and get to Houston.
Bueno, Safin.
Well, that big serve is going to be the dominant factor today, I think, unless Nalbandian will find a bit of magic. 4-1.
Leads by 4 games to 1.
Well, it's been a good start by Safin, and I think he comes in as firm favourite. He does tend to dominate opponents on this particular court surface in conditions like this where the ball travels through the air quickly, and the difficulty in playing him is you can go on with a game plan and you can say, okay, this is what I intend to do. I'm going to try and use some short angles to outmaneuver him. I'm going to possibly try and get to the net in order to force him to hit passing shots to win the points, but you're just not really in control of your own destiny because he can just serve out of a mountain on the first and the second serves. You're struggling at times just to literally get the ball back in play, and then from the back of the court, when you're in a 50-50 rally situation, he can hit a winning shot and change direction on the ball both on the forehand and the backhand at any stage in the rally, and that's why it's very difficult to play against him. You can't get any rhythm, and just when you expect him to play defensively, that's when he'll be aggressive, and so it's a very tough proposition when he's playing well.
Beautifully relaxed he is today, Safin. Somebody else looks pretty relaxed. We've got Carlos, member of that Real Madrid team, of course, that won again yesterday against Valencia. Well, David Owen scoring again, I read. Michael Owen. I keep calling him David Owen because my editor of the Financial Times is David Owen, and he's a great friend of mine, of course. And I tease him that every now and again I pretend he is the famous footballer. Yes, Michael Owen scored twice this week for Real. 1-4. When you look to your coach and trainer when there is a doubtful decision, sort of confirmation from them. And what the sensible coaches do is to go with the call as it was, because they know they can't change it, and they figure that if they say no, you were robbed, it'll only inflame the player. So that's what they tend to do.
Giving away all the trade secrets.
Because he won't need to look at his trainer or coach for the confirmation that that was long. What a wild one. Well, what did that tell you, Jason?
Too many unforced errors from Nalbandian, that's for sure. He's going to struggle to live with Safin if he doesn't cut those down.
First of those. Double fault. Looking rather glum, isn't he, Eduardo Infantino? just as well, I think, that Nalbandian's accuracy was good.
Safin gana 4-2.
And
Leads by 4 games to 2.
keeping Safin back. Now, he's broken him once. No reason he shouldn't do it again.
In session 15.
Yesterday, when he was playing Agassi, he was having to scurry to shots that Agassi hit to angles because Agassi was standing up near the baseline. Nalbandian is playing this match from rather too far back, seems to me. Perhaps he'll move in for the second serve here.
15.
Well, he did, and was going to thump it to an angle, had that been in.
Well, that's what he needs to do. He used the angles very well yesterday against Ljubicic, who of course is tall as well and doesn't move particularly well about the baseline. And so I think he's got to try and use that tactic against Safin, force him into positions whereby he has to go for broke.
Playing seconds. 30-15.
Fairly quiet start this, but of course they are playing over the best of 5, so you do tend to find that they are less explosive than in a 3-set match. Well, that was explosive.
Nalbandian has terrific hands, so he's able to control the ball. He doesn't generate a huge amount of pace, but his control is absolutely superb. So here, Safin will have been expecting a defensive shot, possibly cross-court, playing the percentages in terms of going over the low part of the net into the deep part of the court, but Nalbandian figured that he could still take Safin by surprise by going up the line.
Well, 40-30. Iguales 10.
The rival groups of fans calling for the effort from each.
Safin.
Well, that's his better shot, the backhand side, and that'll be a worry to him to have made an error there on a relatively simple shot. Perhaps the occasion is getting to him a little. And this big Russian serve is certainly getting to him, because that was nearly unplayable. The kick on that, like the kick of a mule. And Safin,
Ball has
5-2.
New ball, please.
Well, the serve is going to be an important stroke for both players, but particularly Safin. He's going to be looking to try and win as many cheap points as possible. First serve percentage very healthy, given the fact that he does give it a good bash, and you would expect him perhaps to have won more than 60% when the first serve has found its mark. But look at the amount of points he's winning when he's down to his second serve, 75%. That's because he's got so much spin on the ball. It's bouncing up high. Nalbandian's finding it very difficult to control the ball, let alone step up and be aggressive. On the other hand, Nalbandian is really struggling because his first serve percentage is very low, languishing down to 40%. He's got to get that up into the 50s and 60s ultimately as the match progresses. And Safin, of course, having a field day when he's returning both the first and the second. Nalbandian doesn't generate that much pace on the first serve, but he's got to vary it a lot more to keep Safin guessing. But the real difficulty is coming when Safin's able to step up the court and take advantage of Nalbandian's second serve.
And he's got plenty to think about already. Video wall. Just the picture there of Carlos Sainz, the man who is well known in the rallying world. And everybody seems to like him. Well, that's nice. So we've changed the tennis balls. Perhaps that'll change his luck. We'll see. Now, was that a query of a call?
Just deep on the baseline, I think Safin thinks it was about an inch or so out. But the umpire's saying it was too difficult to see, therefore he's not going to get involved.
I think he's right. I don't think that was out. Nalbandian came in a few times yesterday. He may have to start doing a bit of that today. I mean, he's not doing anything from the back. Going from bad to worse.
He's 15-14.
Well, I'm sure Eduardo and David worked out a plot before this match began, but if they did, it'll need changing because it's not working. 2 set points. That's simply too good. So a wonderful performance from the big Russian. And their camp, his camp rather looking very cheerful as in just 29 minutes he pockets the opening set. 6-2.
Well, it was a perfect set, really, as far as Safin's concerned, apart from losing his serve in the third game. Played very, very solidly. Didn't have to do too much because Nalbandian really played rather poorly. 45% of first serves in is no good at all at this level, particularly when your opponent returns serve well, as Safin does. Allows the Russian to dominate the points from the back of the court, both on serve and when returning. Way too many unforced errors for Nalbandian, 11 in total when compared to just 3 winners. And although he did take advantage of his one break point, didn't do him any good because Safin took advantage of all 3 opportunities that came his way. So I think as far as Safin's concerned, he'll just happily continue to play as solidly as possible, and it's up to Nalbandian to raise the level of his play, particularly on serve and at the back of the court.
Well, the last point of that set, I think, vividly illustrating that Nalbandian is unable to match Safin from the back of the court. Although he moves quickly and he was getting to the balls, he's making errors when he gets to them. And Safin will just go on doing what he's doing if that continues. So Safin will play in the same way, but Nalbandian will have to, I think, decide on a change of heart and a change of tactics. So you have to think on your feet. Of course, well, you have no coaching allowed during the tournament, but they must have discussed this. And yesterday he was volleying a few times and volleying well.
He certainly was, but I think the problem really for him is the fact that he's just not feeling confident from the back of the court. First of all, he has to make no unforced errors, or very few unforced errors. That's really the platform for his game plan. Then he likes to change direction on the ball and dictate to his opponent. So whilst he's making those unforced errors, he can't be confident. And if you're not confident, it's very difficult to implement your game plan and or change it whilst the match is ongoing.
Both these men were outstanding young players. This one was a winner of junior Grand Slams, and he beat Federer in the US Open junior final in '98. And lost to Coria in the French Open final the same year. So they've all 3 gone on to great things. Of course, Federer, the current world #1. There is Guillermo Coria, his wife, the lovely Carla. A lot of snarling going on there. But you remarked upon the calmness that Safin has shown this week. It has been quite noticeable, and I'm sure that it's the Lundgren influence. Twice as many points won as Nalbandian so far. Because it's the thing that all tennis players have to learn,
Third game, second.
that until you can control your own emotions and temper, then you'll never control a match. And Bjorn Borg learnt that very early. He used to lose his temper as a junior, was suspended for throwing rackets for a while when he was about 12, and he said he never forgot the lesson, and we all know what an ice cool customer he was.
And Federer as well, when he was a junior, he used to get very annoyed when he was on court at his own deficiencies, and learnt later in life that it's much better for your opponent not to know what's going through your mind when you're in the heat of battle, and obviously it served him well.
Perhaps Safin is learning that same lesson a little bit later.
Kids at level 15 left.
Well, this
15.
must be very worrying for Nalbandian.
Just a basic error. It was a good serve. He wanted to move Safin out of the court to open up the court for the first ground stroke of the rally, which in that case was the forehand, but to mistime it so badly really shake the confidence of the Argentine.
30-15.
Well, at least he's held serve, even though the confidence can't be too high. And he's a great scrapper, this man. When I saw him winning that special event, the Commonwealth Bank Classic, he beat Agassi superbly on a very, very hot day in Melbourne, just before the Australian Open. It was an exhibition event, but God, I thought he's going to have a wonderful year. But it was those darned injuries.
I agree with you, John. I thought he was going to be a major player throughout 2004, particularly given the fact that he played so well towards the latter stages of last year, although he did obviously have that wrist injury which was plaguing him, but just hasn't been able to build up a head of steam and get any momentum on his side.
No, and I thought actually at the Australian he played very, very well indeed. He didn't drop a set in getting to the quarters and then ran into Federer. Well, you know, everybody is finding Federer a handful. He lost in 4 to the Swiss, but he wasn't disgraced. Oh, no, that's better. That's the favourite shot.
And you have to start to play well in the areas that you feel you can hurt the opposition, and the backhand down the line is certainly one of those for Nalbandian. That was pretty good length from Safin, but it was a slide shot, not a topspin shot, so therefore Nalbandian didn't have to move back behind the baseline to make good contact with the ball. It was slightly easier therefore to change direction, but it's still a tough shot to execute, so that'll give him a little bit of confidence. And that's the huge advantage, of course, that Safin has when he's under a little bit of pressure. More often than not, he can hit just one shot in order to get back on level terms.
In that case, a fourth ace.
Out.
Oh, well, now Marett won't like that. But he's being very philosophical.
Breaker. 30-40.
When I'm sure, I call. If I'm not sure, I don't call.
Well, Romano, look, I'm afraid TMI doesn't agree with you this time. If you were sure, the evidence is that you shouldn't have been. So you really shouldn't overrule unless it's a clear error, and that certainly wasn't. It wasn't even an error.
Igual as is.
If looks could kill.
Well, he had to therefore save a break point, having been denied that service winner earlier. Well, now, thank goodness he's getting some timing on his forehand.
Well, that was a much better shot because he was moving up the court, had a little bit of linear momentum through the ball, therefore he didn't need to swing too big at the shot, and he was looking to come in after it, which is always a good sign. So always got to have that aggressive mentality in order to play your best tennis.
Well played. This is more like it. Nalbandian improving with every passing game. And he it is who takes the 2-1 lead.
Well, that was a nice end to the game for Nalbandian. He'd done well to stay in the match, and he wasn't playing particularly well, and therefore he's got to take chances when they come his way. Safin coming into the net, but moving too far towards his left to the middle of the court, and Nalbandian was able to therefore just thread the ball down the line.
I was sure.
Intense concentration, getting the return back in play, that's always top of the things to do list, and then you've got to try and be patient during the rally, getting the ball back deep enough so that the opponent can't try and dictate, and if he does, then obviously there's a good chance of him missing. And then when you do have an opportunity to fashion an opening, then you've got to try and make the most of it. On that occasion it was a passing shot, and Nalbandian absolutely delighted with the result, because now he's got that upper hand in the match for the very first time.
Well, throughout the sit-down, he has been railing against that call, the overrule that Romano Gallotti made on his winning serve that was called a fault. And Romano is telling him that, well, I have to call Marett if I am sure. Well, I'm sure he is being honest about that he felt it was long, but it wasn't. And it was dangerously close to a line for him to make that sort of a decision when the rules are clearly stating that you don't overrule except when it's a clear error.
So last 15.
And standing up a bit closer to the baseline there.
It's an excellent tactic to use against Safin. 6'4", 200 pounds, finds it very, very difficult to change direction once he's moving in the opposite one.
Left first. 15-30.
Amazing ability just to pick winners at will.
And
of course that partly because of the previous
15-40.
point, which was a good deep serve, flogged for a clean winner. So he was trying to extra depth on that one, and he's now giving Safin a fourth break point. Hasn't failed yet. The first time he has failed.
30-40.
Good length, just forcing Safin onto the back foot. When you're executing your shots, if you don't have good balance, it's all the more difficult to put the ball where you want to.
Igual Luis. Left first.
Safin's fallen into a pattern error.
Nalbandian.
Extraordinary. Well, he's cut out his unforced errors, Nalbandian.
Nalbandian gana 3-1. Leads by 3 games to 1.
And at the same time, Safin is making unexpected errors. I thought the shot at 30-40 when he had a second serve, relatively easy ball to return, and he missed it. The exasperation clear on his face. 1-3.
Too many unforced errors
15.
as far as Safin's concerned, particularly in this set. Only made 8 throughout the opening one. 29 minutes and 8 games, and he's already made 8 in the first 4 of this second set. Nalbandian, on the other hand, has tidied his game up very nicely.
15 iguales, 15 all.
And of course, Nalbandian really has to try and make the most of this opportunity that he's got whilst he's being given free points.
Perhaps it is the occasion that's affecting both of them, because neither man really playing anything like as well as they've done on the way to the final. Safin reasonably good first set, but now floundering a bit.
Well, it's about time Safin started timing that backhand. He'd made 11 of his 16 unforced errors off that side, and it's one of the shots he likes to use in order to try and hurt the opposition.
Well, that's better. It's a game of fits and starts at the moment. Safin finding a good period to go ahead and hold serve. So it's 3-2 Nalbandian. Here enjoying themselves. Gemma Corrie and his wife watching this and wondering if he will be fit enough to play in Paris, just as we all are, because he sees himself threatened for his place in, as we saw at the start of the programme. He's 5th in the race at the moment, but he's not by any means certain of achieving that place.
And I think it would be very difficult for him as well, having not played competitively for a while, to suddenly be thrown in the deep end playing against the best players in the world. And I think he'd be well advised to only play if he was 100% sure that the shoulder wasn't going to break down again.
So the big video screens, there are 2 of them opposite corners of the court. And the Spanish actors, I think they're recognised by the fans. And it's interesting to watch the reactions of those who suddenly realise that their picture is being displayed to the world. Some are embarrassed, others enjoy the moment of fame and wave back. And the superstars like David Beckham, who's here, he just gave everyone a smile and a wave. He was here yesterday. With a break, 3-2.
Well, in an attempt to cut down the unforced errors, Safin's just taken a little bit off the shots, and that, of course, has given Nalbandian an opportunity to get set up slightly earlier, get good balance, and then really unload with the upper body so that he can generate the pace to hit the winning shot.
Recoge esto.
15 segundos. 15.
Recoge la plástica.
One of
La plástica
the
blanca.
signs supports have just been knocked off. But the little ties that keep them fixed. Just as you think he's got his timing, he mishits the ball totally like that.
Well, you hit the ball up the middle of the court against Safin at your peril. Russian had plenty of time there to get set up. He kept good length initially. Nalbandian dropping the ball ever so slightly short, and Safin changing direction quite beautifully with subtle use of the wrist to get the necessary topspin.
Back to the error game again. That is so sad for Nalbandian.
3 games.
Cost him his serve, and something you said earlier, I think probably pertinent. He doesn't function too well in finals.
No, I think it's an important factor when discussing how good a player is. We know that Federer's won the last 12 that he's played in. Phenomenal record there. Safin's won more than he's lost. He's currently 12-9. Nalbandian is struggling, having won 2 and lost 5.
15.
One of those was in Rome this year. Lost in the final there to Moya. I think looked tired to me that day, I remember, because he'd had a very long and hard battle the day before.
13.
8 in total now for Safin. Give him a little bit of confidence.
Well, back in control, really. Having wiped out the break of serve. And now leading by 4 games to 3.
One more game. At the end of the set, if the Mercedes boy can come to the court to fix the stars under the chain, because probably when he hit the...
Well, it's been a
good
good 3 games for Safin, because at 3-1 down in this second set, it looked like it was starting to get away from him, and he was losing all the momentum that he'd worked hard to build up in the first half an hour by pocketing that opening set. In matches of this magnitude over 5 sets, it's very important to take advantage of any momentum that comes your way. And Nalbandian was saying yesterday that the start of the match was going to be very, very important, because it was going to set the tone for the remainder of the encounter. And of course, he couldn't have started any worse, losing serve 3 times in that opening set. Having worked hard to rectify the situation, Safin's done well in the last 10 minutes or so to regain the lead, and now I think really there's an awful lot of pressure on Nalbandian to come up with the goods on serve to stay in this second set.
Well, he just had that little moment of error-strewn tennis, which harmed his scores in the early part of the set, but he seems to have got it back again now, the control and consistency, which is such an important part of his game. And just as he has got better, so Nalbandian here has himself fallen back into error, so it's been a match of contrasts.
The one redeeming feature for Nalbandian in this set is the improved first serve percentage. Absolutely vital for him to continue improving in that area to stand a chance in the match.
Igual es 15. Okay, so 30-15.
We've said that the injury has interrupted his season. This is only his 13th event of the year. Most people are on about 20 tournaments. In fact, Safin himself is playing his 21st here this week.
So 40-15.
And you get into a sort of rhythm in a season, don't you? With playing all these sort of usual events. You try and work out your schedule at the start of the year, not knowing ever how far you're going to reach in each tournament. So sometimes you have to adjust it if you do particularly well. To take your rests and cool down a bit, like Federer's had to do.
Now,
well, scheduling is very important. Agassi, of course, doesn't play as many events now as he used to. And a few players resting this week because they've played an awful lot of tennis and coming towards the end of the regular season. But when you can't really build up a head of steam, it becomes very difficult to build up any confidence. I think Ferrero struggled with that this year as well, having had chickenpox earlier in the year and then had injury and really couldn't compete at all as he would have liked on the clay court season and suffered as a result.
New ball, please.
So there we are. New balls.
4 games.
After 16 games. 4 all.
It was the accuracy, really, of the approach shot that got Nalbandian in trouble. The ball was short enough, certainly, to come into the net, and the length was good enough, but it was too close to the middle of the court. Safin there, you can see, only having to take 2.5, 3 steps in order to make contact with the pass.
He seems now to be back fully focused, doesn't he? The 9th ace. A couple of really good passes in this game. Yeah, pretty good. Once you get the half-court ball, Safin's always going to bury it. I mean, so is Nalbandian, but he's had fewer chances today. Safin 5-4.
Leads by 5 games to 4.
Well, one of the problems that Nalbandian's had in the match, and there have been a few of those, has been the accuracy of the serve. Usually, he doesn't generate as much pace as his opponent today, but his accuracy and variation is excellent. But you can see on the right of your screen to the juice court, he's been trying to serve a little bit into the body, but there's not too many serves that are landed near the lines. And on the left-hand side, in the ad court, it's been a little better in terms of accuracy, but the length hasn't been particularly good. But he's been getting hurt on the second serve in particular. And you can see they're serving most of the time to Safin's backhand, but really dropping the ball way too short, and that's given Safin the opportunity to step up the court and take the ball early. When returning serve, the first serve has been just behind the baseline, giving himself a little bit of extra time to make contact with the ball. But on the second serve, he's been really stepping up the court, and that's really been the problem for Nalbandian, because Safin's been able to put him under pressure, and he's been able to outmaneuver the Argentine for much of the time.
Well, he looks back so far in this match as a job well done, I think. He's had that little patch of loose concentration at the start of this second set, but otherwise he's been pretty good. I think it'll be a difficult game this now for Nalbandian. Because he'd had the break of serve, he lost his own serve rather poorly, just winning 1 point in the 6th game. He'll be feeling the pressure against. He seems to in finals. Well, what a perfect length he found there.
I think it's important for him to try and keep coming into the net wherever possible, but of course you've got to come in behind an effective shot, and that's been the problem for Nalbandian. Hasn't been able to combine the two.
Well, they're both hitting the lines in these rallies. There was one ball towards Nalbandian, bouncing on the back edge. He himself hit one right on the line at the far end, and then just missing in the last one. So they're going for length. And I mean, it's essential that they do, really, because any short balls will be dispatched. Wonderful wrist he has on those forehands.
21-30.
Almost flicking at the ball. Big point this. 4-5, 30 all. Well, it wasn't that bad a serve. But it was short enough for Safin to climb on it, force the error and produce a set point. There goes the set. So there it is, an hour and 12 minutes we've been playing, and Safin takes a 2-sets-to-love lead as once again an error from Nalbandian hurts his cause. 6-2, 6-4.
Second set Safin, 6-4, 2-set-to-love.
Well, I think Safin did count himself a little fortunate there, but he didn't have to work any harder to build a 2-set-to-love lead, because the vast majority of the important points throughout the encounter to date have been gifted to him by unforced errors from his opponent. And Nalbandian really hasn't been serving well enough. The first serve percentage way too low there, and he hasn't really been able to improve that in the hour and 11 minutes that we've been on court. Still way too many unforced errors. You would expect him not to be in double figures in terms of points gifted to the opposition, whilst hopefully being up at double figures in terms of his winners, particularly from the back of the court when he uses his backhand. He did manage to break Safin's serve, but didn't make the most of it. Remember, he had a 3-1 lead early on. Safin, on the other hand, played a pretty solid set, more winners than unforced errors, and the first serve percentage was relatively healthy, but by leading 2-sets-to-love, he's putting himself in an excellent position.
And here are some of Safin's mighty winners from that second set. There's Peter Lundgren's reaction to the winning of that second set. Determination. One more, one more. That's right. Well, it's been basically a fine match for Safin. Just that little lapse, but he's got it back together again now. Here's the start of the third set.
(15-0, 15 left). 15 iguales 15. Treinta 15, 30-15.
Ace count rises to double figures.
Cuarenta 15, 40-15. Juego Safin. Primer juego tercer set. Third game.
And you get the
Third set.
feeling that this overpowering presence of Safin is just a bit too much for Nalbandian today. He doesn't quite know how to cope. I mean, he's trying hard, but when he tries to counter hit, he makes errors, or too often he makes errors, and just unable to get to the net, which might be a way of doing something, but it's not going to be easy for him.
No, and I've seen him on a few occasions just suddenly out of nowhere start playing poorly for the first time in the tournament, because up to this point he played very well, hadn't dropped a set, and he had a tough draw, beat Sodling, Srishapan, Dent and Lubicic, and all those guys were playing well. They'd all enjoyed earlier victories in the tournament, which suggested there would be tough opposition, but Nalbandian dispatched them with ease.
Perhaps it is the final syndrome that he suffers from. And no chance for Nalbandian in the most famous final that he's ever played, Wimbledon, against Leighton Hewitt. Having played so well to reach it, as you say, it was the same there, wasn't it? Completely outplayed. I suppose the wonder was that he got to the final on grass at Wimbledon.
Nalbandian's got to be careful, because if he doesn't start well in this third set, it could turn into a little bit of a rout. And that was an early indication there that Safin's starting to feel very, very confident now. Superb shot.
Really can't believe it, he can't.
15.
If he just turned the racket around and used the handle to butt it over the net down this line, the left-hand line that we were looking for our main camera, that far line now, he would have won the point easily.
Could prove very important. Love 30. Very easy chance to get 3 break points, and suddenly Nalbandian back on level terms.
Well, they're both miss-hitting them now. The approach was a framed shot, and so was the pass.
Safin tried to get an awful lot of spin on this approach because the ball was relatively low, because Nalbandian hit the backhand with slice. When you do that, obviously, it becomes a little more difficult to time the shot, and Safin can count himself fortunate that the ball landed in, not out.
So here's another chance to break. 71% success rate so far, Safin. Been a strange match, really, in terms of the brilliance being interspersed with really ordinary errors. Well, good defence, but really, he should have killed the first one.
Well, full marks to Safin for anticipating well, but awful play really from Nalbandian. Didn't commit to either of the overheads, rather pushed them and got caught in no man's land, then tried a ridiculously difficult shot given his positional in the court. And Safin now has break point.
You see, just as it seems he's got his rhythm and his timing and his rallying competently, then incompetence with a glaring error. A third break point in this game. And the break.
Safin gana 2-0. Leads by 2 games to none.
And significantly, 2 forehand errors.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a disappointment because everybody thought that these two players, and rightly so, were playing well coming into the final. We had a nice contrast in styles and we were really looking forward to a ding-dong battle, but it hasn't turned out that way because Nalbandian simply hasn't been able to perform with the weight of expectation on his shoulders.
There's 15 left.
Well, there's no question that Nalbandian is struggling in terms of the winners and unforced errors that he's made throughout the encounter, and Safin just on the plus side, so that's why it's been relatively one-sided to this point.
13 left.
And in that area, because we always knew there was going to be an edge. 11 aces altogether, many more heavy serves that have been winners without being aces.
All right, there's 14. Prego, Safin.
Well done. And I think he'll be very pleased, Will Peter Lundgren.
Safin gana 3-0.
The plan is working
Leads by 3
beautifully.
games to 1.
Okay, the ball. Two. Two. One still, one missing.
Nalbandian will be hoping for a change of luck with the change of shirt, but I think it's going to take an awful lot more than that to drag himself back into the match, because his performance has been very disappointing, and I think that's always something that the players have difficulty coming to terms with. If you're outplayed by your opponent in a big match, then you can hold your hands up and say, that was too good, there's not much more I could do about it. But I think Nalbandian will certainly feel that he hasn't been in a position to be able to test Safin at all, any period throughout the encounter to date.
Well, he's just changed his shirt. He's got the headband restored. But what needs restoring is the confidence, which in finals, as we've said, curiously, he seemed to find difficulty in performing at his best. The Rome final this year, clearly he was tired. He'd had a very long semi-final with Costa the day before. And I felt there he looked, well, jaded is the word.
Well, I think he'd been a bit kind to him there. I mean, it was only a 3-set match the day before. Yes, it was the second of the semi-finals, and yes, it was a real battle of endurance, but he still should have been able to come out and perform better than he did. And I thought he was then under the weather a little bit because of the expectation of having to play a 5-set final in a major event.
Quinta 15.
The Argentines, along with the Spaniards, are the biggest force in men's tennis. The Americans too, with 9 in the top 100, same as Argentina. But the Spaniards have got 17 in the top 103, 15 in the top 100. I think he's made it this time. Not an easy shot either. Well done.
Well, he had to really scramble to stay in the point as long as he did. Excellent length from Safin, but he then just got stuck in no man's land. Rather than following the ball into the net or retreating to the baseline, he stood his ground, and therefore Nalbandian had an opportunity just to squeeze the ball down the line.
Quarenta 14.
Well, that was an absolute must-win game for Nalbandian. Still looking very determined. Facially there, determination in every line on that face, but it's going to take more than determination, because I'm afraid the simple truth is he's being outplayed today, partly because he's being forced into error. Some of the unforced errors, though, are what are hurting him equally badly. He must cut those out.
15.
And I'm afraid there's nothing any player in the world can do about that. 13th ace.
Trenta 13.
just too aggressive, flattening the ball out, giving Nalbandian very little time to recover, get back into the rally. Always on the back foot, and therefore always playing second fiddle.
And the change of direction, the shot you spoke of as a favourite down the line, Jason, is just absolutely lethal. Forcing Nalbandian to rush and miss. And a very commanding 4-1 lead.
Only 2, but if you want to wait for 3, let me know.
Well, Safin's done well to maintain his superiority in this third set. And throughout the match, really, it's been the serve that's been most effective. Nalbandian's really had problems. If we have a look at comparing the topspin serve, which is the red one, to his flat serve, and you'll see the difference. The topspin serve comes over the net a little higher, and it certainly drops shorter because of the spin, and because of that gets up into a very difficult position. The flat serve definitely comes onto the opponent quicker, but it's at a more comfortable height. Compare that to the topspin serve, which is right out of the comfort zone, and more often than not it's right above shoulder height. And Nalbandian's had trouble getting up the court and taking that on and being aggressive with it. You can see there's a distinct difference between the level of the two balls. And the flat serve comes through at a nice comfortable height, but the topspin serve in these conditions, being a little bit of altitude, is very difficult to control, and that's really been one of Safin's main strengths in the match today.
Well, he can sit there very confident that he's got the right playing tactics. He's keeping the aggression on serve. He's able to change direction from the back of the court with his heavy ground strokes. Too often for comfort for Nalbandian. And altogether in total command. Now what he's got to do here is simply keep concentrating. 2 more service games will do it. 8 points.
I mean, this is a basic forehand, and it must land about 6 inches above the bottom of the net. And that gives you an indication of just how little confidence he has in his own ability and how the nerves have really affected his performance this afternoon.
This is going to be over rather more quickly than we thought, I think. Safin maintains this mood.
Good return, nice length, and the court was open for the forehand up the line. He does love changing direction on the ball. That's why when he's playing well, he's so very difficult to live with, but when he's playing poorly, he makes an awful lot of unforced errors.
Left first. Meter, 15-30.
Concentration, the order of the day here for him. Oh dear. One has to feel sympathy for Nalbandian, who simply cannot function as he has done for the rest of the week. And there are players who find occasions too much for them, and certainly he's suffering from that at the moment.
Left for service.
Well, there's life, but not much hope, one feels. That's his first ace today, incidentally.
He was used.
And you saw the shrug of his shoulders. Safin absolutely furious that he missed that easy forehand. That was a little loss of concentration. A little chuckle as these rather stately steps. Oh, he's lucky to get away with that rather pushy volley.
Well, you could see that he desperately didn't want to miss it. It was an excellent shot back behind Safin, and he did the right thing by moving up the court. It didn't really do enough with that forehand. Gave Safin an opportunity to hit the pass, but did just enough with it. And Safin was just a little too deep behind the baseline in order to hit an effective shot.
Well played Nalbandian. He's clung on desperately there from 15-42 break points down.
Safin gana 4-2. Leads by 4 games to 2.
In the course of that game, serving his first ace of the day.
It seems a lot when you're 4-1 down, serving, trying to stave off break points, but it's just the single break of serve, so continue to hold. You might have an opportunity to get back in the match.
Well, my assessment at the moment would be that it would take Safin to allow him to get back into the match, because he's on his own service games, he has been secure. It's just a question of the mind control for the Russian now. Safin at his very best.
Delight in the Russians' camp, because he struck the ball beautifully there, opening up the court, forcing the opponent to play defensively, and even though Nalbandian got good length on the backhand, Safin was still able to change direction on the ball with a whip in that racket head.
Yes, frustration piled upon frustration. The serve too good for him, as it has been for most of the afternoon.
Out. 40-15. 40-15. 40-30.
Quite sure where to go. Yes, a reach too far for Nalbandian there. And 40 love became 40-30, and there were thoughts that he might just break, but no. Safin keeps a stranglehold on this match. 5-2.
Well, Safin now standing just 4 points away from victory, and I think one of the reasons he's been able to get to that situation so comfortably this afternoon is the fact that Nalbandian hasn't really played with any confidence, and he certainly hasn't come into the net as effectively as he did in the semi-finals against Ljubicic. He got the short ball here, but he was a little tentative on the approach, and there was no movement at all on to the forehand volley, and that's an indication of nerves. He stood just inside the service line again, not getting into a good position, not an aggressive position, and that's a reflection of his frame of mind, because you're only going to be able to move well if you positively understand exactly what you're trying to do and you feel good about doing it. So Safin's been able to take advantage of all those things this afternoon, and he's been very cool and calm, and he's played well enough, probably only in third or fourth gear as far as he's concerned, but he's managed to snuff out any half chances that Nalbandian might have thought he had, and now stands on the brink of victory.
Marat Safin playing today in his 7th Masters Series final with 3 wins to his name already. In Canada in 2000 and in Paris the same year, and in Paris again 2 years later. Trying to make this a 4th success and 1st in Madrid. Just 4 points away from it, and it would take a monumental effort or a tremendous loss of concentration on his part now, I think, if this man were to turn the tables. New balls, 4-5. 2-5 rather, excuse me.
Intake 15.
3 double faults today. It's about the worst possible time to serve one when you're trying to keep this match alive. Well, he eventually did win the point. He thinks he's won it twice. Just making a point to Grillotti that he should have overruled, he felt at that moment. Anyway, he shouldn't worry too much because he is 30-15 ahead. How many times has that happened today?
Nalbandian hasn't served anywhere near as well as he needed to. Look at that, it's short, it's up the middle of the court, there's no real pace on it, there's no real spin, it's at a comfortable height for Safin to step inside the baseline and make good contact with the ball.
And a united sigh around this huge arena, the 9,500 fans hoping against hope that Nalbandian would stage a recovery. But that error, after an hour and 47 minutes of play, has given Safin his first championship point.
And that serve was an awful lot better, forced Safin to move an extra step to his left and to take one hand off the racket. And we know that he's not quite as proficient on the slice backhand as he is with the topspin.
Well, two of his best serves in a row. Don't start the celebrations yet for Safin. It's not over. Couldn't string three together.
Well, I don't think he quite got the feet in the right position here. A little close to the ball, and you can see they're pulling off it and across it. That's why it ended up in the net.
Well, full marks to Nalbandian, clinging to the edge of the cliff with his fingernails. But if only he'd been able to string shots like that together for the rest of the match, this would have been a very close fight. But this has been the problem for him all along, the Safin serve, and he has to break this time if he's going to stay in the contest. 14th ace from the Russian. Just choking a little bit again on that last backhand. It's been the story of the day, I'm afraid, for Nalbandian. whereas the Swedish champion take great heart from the form of Safin. I think 1 lapse only. Apologies to his opponent. Didn't offer to hit, so didn't have to. Well, for the second time, Safin at championship point. That's it. So they shake hands, mutual congratulations for Safin's 4th Masters Series success. The first here in Madrid, and no question about the outcome today. He was always the better player. An hour and 52 minutes at stake now for that straight sets win. 6-2, 6-4, 6-3, and I think the 9,500 here would have liked a closer match, but they got a great exhibition of power play from a man who specialises in that department and who we need, frankly, to be at his best for the health of the world game.
Well, I think he's thoroughly deserved his victory, not only today, but throughout the week. He was tested severely in his opening match, the second round, in fact, because of course he was given a bye by Feliciano Lopez, the left-handed Spaniard, and he came through 6-3 in the 3rd set. Lopez, of course, was in Vienna last week, so that was a match which really gave Safin a lot of confidence, and he went on for bigger and better things thereafter, a couple of straight set victories, and suddenly today he was way too good for Nalbandian. The Argentine played very poorly. First serve percentage was way too low throughout the encounter. Way too many unforced errors, 38 in total compared to just 12 winners. And although his conversion of break points rate was pretty healthy at 66%, he didn't generate enough of those chances throughout the best of 5 set encounter, whereas Safin, on the other hand, played very solidly, served well, more winners than unforced errors, and crucially took advantage of a lot of the breakpoint opportunities that came his way. So he thoroughly deserved his victory.
Well, he certainly did. Well, there we are. Those figures tell the story very accurately, don't they? And this is how the match ended, this heavy serve of Safin's, which all afternoon long had really been too much for Nalbandian. Once again, forced the error and brought him a well-deserved victory. Relief on his face as he thanks the crowd. And I think now Safin is back to something like his best, the sort of tennis he produced at the start of the year when in Australia he got to the final with those sterling victories over Roddick in the quarters, Agassi in the semis, and then lost a good close 4-set match against Federer. I think they told us just how good a player he can be, and the game needs Safin to be at his best.
Certainly does. He really gives a whole new dimension to the game because he can play so aggressively on any surface. I believe he's one of the players that can win the Grand Slam. Whether he has the mental fortitude to do that remains to be seen, but he can play well on rebound ace in Australia, on the clay at Roland Garros. I'm not sure whether he can do that well on the grass, but he certainly has the game to be able to do that well. And then, of course, on hard courts at the US Open. So I think he can be successful and has been in the past in all of the Grand Slam events, and it would be superb if we could start to develop a rivalry between him and Roger Federer. It certainly hasn't been the case between Federer and Andy Roddick. Federer really has been beating Roddick way too easily in most of their encounters for it to become a rivalry, but I think if Safin can play somewhere near his best, he certainly has the ability to be able to beat Federer, and that would be a nice rivalry.
Well, it would, and I think the year-end championship beckons for Safin now. He's lifted himself one stage closer to playing there. He's not yet certain, but he's certainly now got 465 points, and he's gone past Tim Hammond, so he's in 6th position at the moment. It's the shield that we will be getting in just a moment as he signs the fans' autographs. And it really depends how he keeps this momentum that he's now created going in the next couple of weeks.
And I think it will be good, because you've got to remember that he's done well recently when he was a winner in Beijing just a few weeks ago, and that was his first title of the year. So now he's won 2 in the space of 3 or 4 weeks, and he was also a semi-finalist in Bangkok. So I think he can go on to bigger and better things in the next few weeks, particularly indoors. And then, of course, if he does qualify for Houston, he's going to be a major player over there.
Well, he certainly is. He's going to be a major player wherever he plays. The sort of game he's got, one remembers those early developing years when he was the newcomer of the year for ATP. That was in 1998. Then he was the most improved player of the year 2000, the year he actually hit #1 for a brief spell in November. And then he had those injuries that we spoke of that held him up for a while. But he's back at his best, and the game's all the healthier for it. We're just getting ready for the presentation ceremony now. And here come the lines people. And the ball girls and the ball boys.
Esta semana de gran tenis que hemos vivido en Madrid. Una semana en la que ha habido momentos inolvidables que hemos podido ver en ese vídeo de 3 minutos que nos resume de alguna forma las emociones que se han vivido no solo en esta pista central, sino en todas las pistas en las que se ha estado disputando el torneo. Y a continuación, rápidamente, como digo, cuando estén colocados los jueces de línea, los recogepelotas,
so they snake in,
se va a proceder a esta entrega de
ball
premios.
boys and ball girls, and on come the model ladies, who were such a feature of this tournament, doing the honours as ball girls for the first of the night matches each day, and again for the semi-finals and the final. The voice of Julio Nieto is the presenter you hear introducing this event.
Esta entrega de premios, don Alberto Ruiz Gallardón, alcalde de Madrid, don Jaime Elisabetsky, secretario de Estado para el Deporte, don Agustín Puñol, presidente de la Real Federación Española de Tenis, don Pedro Muñoz, presidente de la Federación Madrileña, don Manuel Cobo, vicealcalde de Madrid, y don Manolo Santana, director del torneo.
So on come the presentation party. Pedro Muñoz, the president of the Madrid Tennis Federation, Jaime Elisabetsky, Secretary of Sports for Spain, Alberto Ruiz Gallardón, Mayor of Madrid, our old friend Manolo Santana, the tournament director.
Entrega el premio a David Nalbandian, finalista de esta edición del Master Series de Madrid, don Jaime Elisabetsky, secretario de Estado para el Deporte. David Nalbandian,
So the runner-up gets his prize
de esta edición de 2004.
From Jaime Elisabetsky, the Secretary of Sport in Spain, and a cheque for €222,750, along with that lovely piece of Waterford glass. The crystal prizes that the Waterford company produce for all these events is much prized.
David, un segundito, el micrófono es tuyo.
Bueno, primero creo que le tengo que felicitar a Marat, que realmente hoy jugó un partido increíble. Y bueno, felicitaciones, Marat.
Congratulating Marat Safin.
Después, bueno, a mi cuerpo técnico, a mi entrenador, a mi hermano, a mi preparador físico, a mi fisio.
Coach and
Y
trainer.
bueno, después
he's thanking
agradecerle a todo el torneo, que realmente lo están haciendo muy bien, y principalmente a
the
ustedes, al
organization
público,
of the
que
tournament.
la verdad que el primer día me hicieron sentir como en casa, así que bueno, desde ya muy agradecido y los veo el año que viene seguro.
He felt at home from the first day, he said, here in Madrid, where, of course, he speaks the same language as he
Entrega
does at home.
ahora el premio a Marat Safin como ganador de este Master Series de Madrid, don Alberto Ruiz Gallardón, alcalde de Madrid. Marat.
So the mayor of Madrid, Alberto Ruiz Galardon, will present the prize, that Waterford Shield, to our new champion, Marat Safin. And I'm sure he'll have something to say for us.
Marat.
Bueno, primero, felicidades por la final. Lo siento, no ha sido tu día.
Not your day, he says to Nalbandian. Very true.
Espero que no te pase mucho más. Así que todo lo mejor. Suerte en los próximos 2 torneos para llegar a Masters, eso espero. Y pues siente, creo que tengo que decir gracias a los directores del torneo, a todos los sponsors. Muchas gracias por hacer una gran semana. Gracias al público.
And the public. And it has been a good crowd generally each night.
Habéis estado increíble. Muchas gracias por apoyar. Muchas gracias por venir toda esta semana y pues hacer sentirme bien aquí, como si fuera hace muchos años que estuviera viviendo aquí. Así que muchas gracias.
Graciously done. Thank you to Madrid.
También, que es muy importante, recoge pelotas.
Thanking the ball girls, particularly the pretty ones, I think he's saying. The model girls.
Ya sé que no es vuestro trabajo, pero habéis hecho muy bien.
We thought they did a fine job, and they did generally. They've been well trained.
Los jueces de línea, sin ellos no hubiera ganado ni un punto. Gracias.
The Lions people, men and women, wouldn't have won any points without them, he says.
Y también yo creo que para mí es lo más importante que yo llegué a la final y gané a la final. Creo que tengo que decir las gracias a mi entrenador, a todo el box que tengo ahí.
And thank you to Peter Lundgren, his coach, and to Walt Landers there, his trainer.
A mi amigo Diego, Dani, a mi preparador físico Walt Landers, da igual. Y lo más importante, que están ahí, que tengo otro box que ha venido especialmente de Rusia. Muchas gracias. Спасибо большое.
And somebody who came all the way from Russia to support him.
Bueno, ahora unas fotos.
So Julio Nieto asking the photographers to do their stuff with the 2 finalists. This is the customary practice at all these events. All these pictures will appear in tomorrow's papers, of course, and in the tennis magazines around the world. Certainly in ITW, International Tennis Weekly, the magazine of ATP Tour. And all these lovely moments to cherish for Safin, who has won a prize today of €445,000, 500 as well, and 100 points, and I think they'll mean almost more to him. The 100 points for the week, that is, not today, because it was an extra 15 for winning. But I think the race hotting up as it has done again this year rather vindicates the whole concept of the Masters Series, which is in doubt, or the contestants for the last 8 places in Houston in doubt until the last minute, and that's exactly what they hope for.
Certainly do, and I think Safin will be absolutely delighted that he's put himself in contention to secure one of those spots.
Manolo Santana, pues va a comentarnos qué le ha parecido la semana, que seguro que, bueno, como a todos ustedes nos ha encantado.
Manolo Santana now.
Muy buenas tardes, autoridades.
Very popular champion he was, winner at Wimbledon, winner at France, winner of the USA.
Queridos amigos, solo 2 palabras para agradeceros enormemente vuestra asistencia a esta tercera edición del Máster. Quiero agradecer a todos los que han colaborado en el torneo, recogepelotas, jueces de línea, las azafatas que lo han hecho muy bien, o modelos, como la queréis llamar,
Thanks everyone
a
who's
toda
come
la
to the
gente
tournament and
que
been
participa en
responsible
el torneo, que no se ven.
for making it
Pero
happen.
tenemos en el torneo 180 voluntarios que han hecho un
180
trabajo
volunteers they had here.
excepcional, y toda la gente que ha colaborado conmigo durante el torneo se lo
All done a
quiero
great
decir
job.
profundamente. Pero quiero que sepáis que el esfuerzo que está haciendo el ayuntamiento con su alcalde para que podamos tener este torneo aquí es fenomenal, y yo te pediría, alcalde, que nos sigas apoyando para que podamos continuar con este torneo que
Thank you,
jamás
the mayor of
se tendrá
Madrid.
que ir de Madrid. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you to Madrid, allowing us to have the tournament here in Madrid. And the fifth person there at the end of the line
Y
is
bueno,
Dr.
invitamos
Agustin
a los dos jugadores a
Puyol, the
abrir.
president of the Spanish Federation. So I think the whole of Spain can be pretty proud of this event, frankly. It is a beautifully presented
Y parte del
event in
espectáculo de esta
a
final,
large
cuando queráis,
and comfortable now arena
son
with
dos
all
botellas de
the
champán especialmente hechas para vosotros, para que las
all
abráis
the-
y, en fin,
things that one would expect to find here. Good accommodation for the players, for the spectators, and indeed for the media too. It's been improved over the last 2 years. It was here 3 years ago, or rather 2 years ago. This is the third tournament. And the lovely moment of of celebration, chasing the the model girls with the champagne. What fun. I always feel it's a bit of a waste, this, you know. Surely it's rather nicer to drink it. But he's going to share it with the girls. Well, she's really enjoying herself, isn't she? Well, what a lovely party atmosphere to bring down the curtain
bueno, hemos tenido una
on the
semana
2004 Masters Series Madrid.
para las Masters Series de 2005. Buenas tardes y hasta pronto.
Well, there we are. As the music starts, Safin poses for yet more photographs. I think it's time for us to take our leave. We, of course, look forward to welcoming you to our broadcasts from Paris, which begin in 8 days' time. And there, surely, the last places will be decided for Houston. Certainly, those are the moments we all savour, the desperate fight for points that will happen in 2 weeks' time in Paris. Please make a date and be with us there. So for Jeff Grant and for Jason Goodall, I'm John Barrett. For the entire production team here, the TPL team, hoping that you've enjoyed our coverage in Madrid, where it's been a pleasure for us to bring you these pictures, and we shall be doing as much as we can to make your week in Paris equally as enjoyable. Look at that marvellous moment for Safin. The fourth of those shields that he has won. I think he will look back on this week with great satisfaction. So there we are. Time now really for us to take our leave. From all of us here, the entire TPL production team, I'm John Barrett, wishing you farewell from Madrid.